Hey guys, so there's been a lot of questions about how to get ourselves into a better position for an overhead squat. So we're going to make a few videos to show you some different ways that you can address those issues. This video is going to start with assessing our overhead ability through our shoulders. Okay, so it's a real simple test to kind of see where you're at, to see if your shoulders are the problems. And that's just raising your arms up overhead. So I've got Rachel here to demo. She's just going to stand with her legs straight. She's going to bring her arms up and overhead, and I'll show you what we're looking for. So in an ideal world, Rachel is able to push her arm back to here so that we can see her ear on this side of her arm without letting her break in her rib cage arching. We call that a compensation, okay? So Rachel's natural ability brings her a little bit short. You can't really see her ear, and she has a slight arch through her back, causing her rib cages to flare out. So we can improve this position through soft tissue work, mobilizing the joint, and then loading the joint in order to get into a stable position. Okay guys, so we've identified 5 different areas that you can complete soft tissue work on in order to improve your overhead position in your shoulders. The first one, and probably the most common issue that people have, is tight T-spine. So the area of your back's about mid-back. Let's just focus on that, mid-back. Sometimes when you sit at a desk all day, you're forced into this flex position, and it really irritates your thoracic spine. So we want to try to open that up as much as possible. There's 2 ways that we like to do this. The first one can be with a roller. Pretty simple. You just use the roller to open up that area, rolling from the bottom of your neck down to the middle of your back, basically. You can have your arms overhead. You can give yourself a bear hug. We're looking to get through about 10 to 15 passes. The other way that we can do this, which is a little bit more intensive, is to grab the peanut. So it's 2 lacrosse balls in this little pouch. If you got some lacrosse balls at home, you can also use just a sock. And what we're going to do with this, we're going to put our spine in between the 2 balls. Okay, so Rachel's going to set that down on the ground. Again, focusing on the T-spine, so mid-back to the bottom of her neck. And she can do the same motions with her arms. She can have her arms overhead, okay, and bring them back down. Okay, so you should feel some tightness through that area. Once you do about 10 passes, then you can move up a little bit and do 10 more passes. And keep doing that until you get to the bottom of your neck. Good work. The next 2 areas actually that we've identified to be troublesome with an overhead position are the areas around the scapula, okay, so your shoulder blades, and then up into your trap. Okay, so we're actually going to do this soft tissue work at the same time using a single lacrosse ball. So we're going to start up in the trap, okay, laying down on the ground. You're going to put that ball, dig it into your trap, and you do the same thing you did when you were on the peanut. You're going to bring your arm overhead and then back down to your hip. You can even come across your body and then back up and overhead. Again, we're going for 10 to 15 passes, and then slowly lower the ball and keep going down until you hit about the middle of your back. It should take you about 3 or 4 times down your back. The next area we want to focus on, guys, is the pec. So what's important in an overhead position is that your pec is engaged as well as your lats. But sometimes when we're in that flex position at work, all of this tissue gets really tight. So we need to open it up to make sure that it's functioning properly. We like to use the big ball for that one. So Rachel's going to use the ball. She's going to lay face down, and she's going to place it basically right where her shoulder meets her pec. Okay, she's going to bring her arm down behind her back, and then she's going to bring it back up and over her head. Okay, so this may be really uncomfortable for you. But the idea is just to dig in and let the ball do its work. Again, you can move it slightly after you've done about 10 passes, and then just go through the same motion. Finally, the last thing that we want to focus on for the overhead position is our lats. Okay, so again, your lats can get really tight, but they play a very important part in holding weight up and over your head. Okay, this is a really nasty sort of mobilization that we do. It's not going to feel very good. That's a good indicator that it's really, your lat is really tight and that you need to do some work on it. So it's important that you get all the way onto your side. Okay, depending on the density of the foam roller, obviously it'll hurt more if the foam roller is really dense. And Rachel's going to have her arm overhead. She can even grab the back of her head with her bottom hand, and she's just going to roll. She's rolling from about mid-torso to her armpit, okay? As it hurts, we know it's important that you breathe as much as you can to let the muscle relax and let you sink into the soft tissue work. Okay guys, so we've done some soft tissue work on the shoulder to help improve position. Now what we're going to do is some mobilization of the joint. We do this in the form of banded distraction and traction, okay? So the reason we do that is sometimes the shoulder can get pretty jammed up in the joint. The shoulder joint itself is like, you can imagine a golf ball sitting on a tee, okay? It's not the most stable joint in the world, but sometimes it can get pretty gunky where the golf ball sits on the tee. So this will help clear that up and help give you a little bit better range of motion. So what it looks like is we're gonna throw this band up onto the pull-up bar. Okay, Rachel's gonna stick her hand in, make sure she's got the grip on the band pretty securely. She's gonna go into a bent position with her knees slightly bent and her arm reaching forward with lots of tension on the band. From there, what she's going to do is create more tension by externally rotating and then pulling down through her shoulder blade. So external rotation, pulling down, okay? And that sort of release back towards the rig creates that traction, creates that little bit more range of motion that we're looking for in order to have a good position overhead. Okay. The next thing that she can do is she can turn herself sideways. Okay. What we're looking for here is that she's getting the scapula gliding across the rib cage. So again, she's twisting, creating tension, and then squeezing her shoulder blade back and towards her spine. Okay, so you want to do about 5 to 10 passes of each of those on both arms, and that should help mobilize the joint and prepare yourself to load overhead. All right guys, so we've done some soft tissue work and we've done some mobilization. So now we just want to retest to see if we've made any change in our range of motion. So Rachel's going to do the same test that she did at the beginning. She's going to stand with her legs straight. She's going to raise her arms up and over her head.
Feel the weight in the outside corner of my ears.
And what you'll notice is that she's increased her range of motion. You can now see her ear on this side of her arm, and there's less of a positive angle through this part of her lat and her tricep. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is how to load our shoulder properly to improve our overhead position. Okay guys, so we did all that soft tissue work and mobilization. We've created all this new range of motion in our shoulder. The bad part about this is as soon as you leave the gym today, your body's going to go back to normal, okay, or back to the way that it was. So in order to accelerate the process of making permanent change, it's important that we load the joint after we've done all this soft tissue and mobilization work, okay? If you follow that process, and you do it often, then you're more likely to make permanent change in your shoulder mobility. So we're going to do this with 3 different movements. The first one's going to be with the kettlebell. So Rachel's actually going to pick up the kettlebell. You're probably going to have to start pretty light here, okay? And she's actually just going to pull her arm up to a 90-degree angle, holding the kettlebell on the outside of her wrist, okay? So what we're looking for here, when you hold something up and over your head, you want to have engagement through your pec, so the front side of your shoulder, and your lat and traps, so the back side of your shoulder. So what's important is that Rach is packing down her shoulder here, okay? She feels engagement through her lat, and she feels her pec flexing as well in order to create as much support as possible for the weight. Okay, and what you'll notice is she's even starting to shake a little bit, so this is very challenging movement to hold. Obviously she's bracing and keeping her butt tight as she does this movement, and the best way to make it functional is to walk. So holding that position, she's then going to walk down and back in the gym. Come on back. Okay. The next step on this one is to use the same weight probably, and you're just going to actually bring your arm up and all the way overhead. So you got the same grip on the kettlebell. Now what we're looking for is the same engagement through her lat and through her pec and braced in the abs, okay? And just like the last movement, Rach is now gonna walk down and back the gym, okay? You wanna avoid leaning over as much as possible. The weight should feel pretty stable overhead with your shoulders sunk down and into the socket. Then finally, we're gonna use the barbell. We're going to find our comfortable grip for an overhead squat, and we're going to press that bar up and overhead and pull it back down. And you can do that 5 to 10 times, guys. Again, what we look for is that her pec is engaging and her lat is engaging as she completes the movement. So that's for the shoulder part of the overhead mobilization. The next video is going to take a look at your hips to see if they are an issue when you're trying to complete your overhead squats.